abortion, transgender rights for teenagers. I am Constance Mega. Angry bank customers today attacked the Rumokoro branch office of First City Monument Bank, FCMB, in Port Harcourt over the scarcity of the new Naira notes. An eyewitness said shop owners around the bank fled the area after the aggrieved bank customers destroyed some windows, canopies and chairs inside the bank. The eyewitness said the situation was put under control after the arrival of security personnel, while 6 security vans are now stationed at the bank. Well, as you may know, there have been violent protests in some other states as the scarcity of the new Naira notes persist. Protests in Oyo, Delta and Edo states have seen bank ATMs destroyed. Meanwhile, as the time frame for depositing old Naira notes with the CBN elapses tomorrow, some Port Harcourt residents say the process of depositing the old notes at the CBN office is tedious. The cash-strapped depositors crowded the gates of the CBN in Port Harcourt this morning with their already printed slip and identification cards, awaiting their turn to be led inside the CBN premises to deposit their money. Now, those who spoke with correspondent Martha Okere said the response time is slow. Others called for an extension of tomorrow's deadline.
If that deadline should hold, it's going to cause a lot of problems because some persons are yet to generate their code from CBN, and so many persons does not know how to do this. So many persons will bound to lose their money.
I don't come collect form, process am through my phone, go reprint out. So I don't print out finish. I won't go collect number. I never dey sure of today, but I dey pray make him work out today.
The process have not been easy for us because I'm in the market this morning when they called me that 500, 1,000 is no more existence in again. It's only 200 and 100 naira. So we are not even seeing the new money, talk less of the old one.
They have asked about 90 to be there, and they have only attended to 13 for more than 3 hours. So it's not an easy task. I believe if they delegate this to some of these commercial banks, it will have been easy.
Well, recall that a guideline on the deposit of the old Naira notes began on Wednesday and is expected to run till tomorrow. Now, to deposit old notes at the various CBN branches, customers are required to have a completed online application form, copy of valid means of identification, and a completed teller. Now, once the account is verified, the equivalent of the cash would be transferred to the customer's bank accounts. In the meantime, the CBN has promised to work with commercial banks to implement the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, the president had in a broadcast this morning directed the CBN to reinstate the old 200 Naira notes into the economy to run alongside the new notes as legal tender until 10th April. The CBN's controller for Rivers State, Maxwell Okafor, spoke on Nigeria Info FM's Hello Port Harcourt.
We are ready, we are prepared, and we're going to implement the directive immediately. We are working with our banks, and I want to believe that our banks are also prepared to inject it fast into the system. You know, we work through the banks. We're going to release it to the banks this morning, and we rely on them to be fast in distributing it to all their branches.
Now, earlier in his broadcast, President Buhari said the move is to ease the current hardship Nigerians are facing due to the new Naira policy. He said the CBN must ensure that the new notes become more available and accessible to citizens through the banks. Meanwhile, a lawyer, Richard Wokocha, has maintained that the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes remain a legal tender until the Supreme Court rules in favor of the federal government in the case brought by 3 states. Professor Wokocha, a lecturer at the Department of Public Law, Rivers State University, tells correspondent Emeka Otuka that the president's broadcast affirming the decision of the CBN to phase out the old 500 and 1,000 Naira notes is illegal and a contempt of court.
They are still legal tender. The president has no power to make them non-legal tenders, while the Supreme Court has ruled saying that they are legal tender until the issue is determined. So the president's statement does not change the law. The central bank, the president, the National Assembly, all institutions of the country are subject to the judicial review powers of the court. So the president's statement does not change the decision of the court. It has not changed the legal status of those notes.
Well, Professor Wokocha, however, added that the Supreme Court cannot commit the president to prison until he leaves office because of the immunity clause he enjoys. Well, he also said those relying on the president's statement to reject the old Naira notes are liable to anyone who suffers a loss or damages from their rejection.
So if anybody suffers any loss in the transaction as a result of his business partner or the other person in the transaction refusing to accept his payment by those notes, relying on the president's statement that they are no longer legal tender, he shall be liable to the person who has suffered the loss because the president's statement does not determine what the legal status of those notes are until the issue before the court in respect of which the court made that order is determined.
Also, another lawyer, Kennedy Amos, described the president's speech as an affront on the rule of law.
The president's speech, which is tantamount to disobedience to the order of the Supreme Court, is an affront on the rule of law and the doctrine of the separation of powers.
Moving on now, the Rivers Debate Group says all the selected 5 governorship candidates have promised to appear for the 2023 governorship debate scheduled for this Sunday. The president of the Rivers Debate Group, Ibifiri Bob Manuel, made this known while speaking with newsmen today.
So all the candidates have indicated their willingness to be on that platform on that day, on Sunday the 19th. So we'll be having the full complement of all of the candidates on that day. And we'll be discussing issues this time because the whole focus and vision behind the Rivers debate has always been on issues rather than violence, because when you leave the space for issues, we think Rivers State is too important for us to allow it to slide that direction.
Mr. Bob Manuel also said it will be a disappointment to any governorship candidate that fails to turn up for the debate.
If a candidate decides not to show up, he would have shot himself put, or she would have shot herself on the foot. Because going by the trajectory, debates are basically structured for the undecided. Now in this case, going by the researches that have been carried out, we have a lot of undecided in our society because of the widespread discontent. They've given us their word. They're all gentlemen, very, by my standards, I think that we should take them for their words.
Of course, the president of the Rivers Debate Group also explained the significance of the peace accord to be signed by the governorship candidates at the event.
The way the Rivers Debate Group is structured, we're not structured to come out to the public or to the press and begin to state what we do. We work behind the scene with our international collaborators to see that we ensure that they stick to the tenets of the agreements that they signed. We were able to make them see the need to look at the other side of the coin.
Well, correspondent Soibio Ruwari reports that some partners of the forum were present at the briefing. INEC in Rivers State says it has started moving sensitive electoral materials for the 2023 general elections to the 23 local government areas of the state. The resident electoral officer in the state, Johnson Sinikiem, made this known to newsmen shortly after a meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security at the INEC headquarters in Port Harcourt.
All security agencies are working assiduously to ensure the smooth conduct of these general elections. As a commission, we have commenced the movement of non-sensitive materials to the local government areas in the state. Configuration and charging of all the beavers is ongoing. Training and screening of all the supervisory presiding officers have been concluded. Training of the presiding officers and the assistant presiding officers will commence from Friday.
But Dr. Sinikiem, who is also the chairman of the committee, advised critical stakeholders to avoid actions that will truncate the elections in the state.
Engagement with the logistic providers is at the final stage. Tomorrow we shall still meet with them alongside with the Commissioner of Police, the representative of the ICPC, the representative of the EFCC, and the representative of the road safety. We call on all the stakeholders to conduct themselves in a manner that will not go contrary to the provisions of the law guiding conduct of election in Nigeria.
Now, on his part, the co-chairman of the committee and the Commissioner of Police in Rivers State, Okon Effiong, who was represented by the Deputy Commissioner Operations, DCP MD Sheung, said the security agencies are ready for this year's elections.
So far, all security agencies here have brought their list of their personnel that are going to do this election with us, and we have already submitted our operation order to our force headquarters. About 6,866 polling units and other INEC facilities that have been provided with adequate security. And for the threats, we have taken care of them. We identified our threats and we are dealing with them before the election day. There will be no security threat to the elections.
Well, correspondent Soibio Ruwari reports that the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, ICCES, comprises all heads of security agencies in the state. In the same vein, the River State Police Command says it has arrested some persons involved in pre-electoral violence in the state. The State Commissioner of Police, Okon Effiong, said this through the Deputy Commissioner of Police Operations, MD Sheung, at the meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security today in Port Harcourt. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has announced that over 310,000 police personnel will be deployed to ensure a smooth conduct of the 2023 elections. The IGP, who disclosed this during the weekly ministerial briefing at the State House, added that over 93,400 personnel will be added from other security agencies. Still ahead, President Buhari to attend AU Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Stay tuned.
My name is Magnus Ngei Abe, SD.
Pregnant women have been advised to avoid walking around filling stations to prevent cancer in their children. Head of Oncology Unit, Department of Pediatrics at the University of Port Harcourt's Teaching hospital. Nwaduto Akani gave this advice yesterday as the world marked International Childhood Cancer Day.
When you're getting around where there's fuel, before you know it, you have already inhaled a lot of it. And then the rate at which it dissolves in the body is high because it's usually soluble in fat. So you find that for children, the amount of fuel that will not be toxic to adults can be very toxic to children. And so that's why we advise that pregnant women shouldn't be seen around filling stations. And then some women who even do business with fumigation and all that store these chemicals in their houses. But of course, because it gets into air, the level the adults will inhale that will not poison them will cause poisoning in children.
But Dr. Akoni also advised parents to always present their children early to the hospital when they are sick, as any organ of a child can be attacked by cancer. The International Childhood Cancer Day is marked every 15th February, and the theme for this year is Better Survival is Achievable. Some landowners at the Ohiamini Mba farmland have commended the chairman of Ikwere local government area, Dr. Samuel Wanosike, for ensuring a peaceful resolution of the land disputes between the people of Rumagolu community and Alu community at the Ohiamini Mba farmland. A statement signed by Promise Nwogu on behalf of the landowners called the attention of Dr. Wanosike to a subsisting court judgment dated 11th January 2023 before Justice C.N. Wali of the Port Harcourt High Court, in which judgment was entered in favor of Mr. Promise Nwogu, Mr. Anderson Njioho, Mr. Hardy Kingdom Amadi, Chief Nyeji Badu Ichenwo, Mr. Ovunda Ned Nwogu, and Elder Ohonda regarding the Ohiamini Mba farmland. The statement said the call became necessary to avoid being misled to encroach into their land. The statement also noted that they will not hesitate to take legal action should there be any encroachment into the land. President Muhammadu Buhari is expected to depart Abuja today for Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to participate in the 36th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union.
And now, we'll bring you news from around the world.
Madrid has approved a law allowing abortion and transgender rights for teenagers, making it the first country in Europe that will entitle workers to be paid menstrual leave. The changes ushered in today to sexual and reproductive rights mean that 16 and 17-year-olds in Spain can now undergo an abortion without parental consent. But period products will also now be offered free in schools and prisons. On the news this evening, you heard that angry bank customers today attacked a branch of FCMB in Rumokoro, Port Harcourt. INEC in Rivers State has commenced the movement of sensitive election materials to the 23 local government areas in the state. All is now set for the Rivers governorship debate. And on the foreign scene, Madrid has approved a legislation expanding abortion and transgender rights for teenagers. The news was edited by Onyekachi Nwosu. Mostly hazy weather in Port Harcourt this evening. Vote on election day. Your vote is your voice. I'm Constance Mega. Thank you for listening.
Nigeria. The hub for information,